She was the chosen one, the crowned daughter of the light and dark. The storm arrived without warning. Space around the human station twisted and brightened, as if light itself had lost its path. Sensors screamed with errors, then went silent. Power flickered across the metal halls, and gravity wavered just enough for people to stumble and grab the walls. No one had ever seen a storm like this. It was not made of fire or dust. It was made of light and darkness moving together, folding through each other like living things. Inside the medical wing, a woman cried out as the storm reached its peak. The sound of the storm pressed against the station hull, not as noise, but as pressure. Doctors rushed around her, their faces pale. Machines failed one by one, screens going black, then glowing again with strange symbols that no human language used. One doctor tried to pull a scanner away, but the scanner seemed to cling to the air, frozen in place. Then the child was born. At the moment of her first breath, the storm stopped. The sudden silence was worse than the chaos. The station drifted in calm space again, untouched, as if nothing had happened. Light stabilized. Gravity returned to normal. Every system rebooted on its own. Across the station, people slowly stood up, unsure if they were alive or dreaming. In the medical room, the child did not cry. She opened her eyes and looked around as if she already knew where she was. Her eyes reflected both brightness and shadow, not as colors, but as depth. The machines near her refused to read her body. Her heartbeat appeared, vanished, then appeared again at a different rhythm. One doctor whispered that the child was broken. Another said she was perfect. The woman who gave birth reached out, exhausted and shaking. When her hand touched the child, the reading stabilized for a moment. The baby made a small sound, almost like a sigh. That was when the doctors realized the machines were not failing. They were being corrected. Within minutes, security sealed the entire wing. Orders came from above, sharp and final. No records of the storm were to be shared. No footage was to leave the station. The child was marked as restricted, her name removed from public systems. To the station, she did not exist. They called her Mira in private, a simple name chosen because it meant nothing special. The fewer meanings, the safer it felt. Mira grew inside a controlled room with clear walls and soft light. Guards stood outside at all times. Scientists observed from behind screens. They spoke softly near her, careful with every word, as if language itself might react. As an infant, she slept more than normal children. When she dreamed, the lights dimmed on their own. When she woke, shadows pulled closer to the walls. As she grew, strange things followed her steps. Broken tools fixed themselves when she touched them. Cold rooms warmed. Loud arguments faded into silence when she entered. She never tried to make these things happen. They happened around her, responding like loyal animals. Some of the station crew believed she was a blessing. Others believed she was a weapon waiting to fire. A few believed she was a mistake that should never have lived. Those voices stayed quiet, but fear has a way of spreading without sound. When Mira was 6, the first test nearly ended everything. A group of scientists brought a new scanner into the room. It was designed to read objects from other dimensions, old alien technology recovered from a dead world. The lead scientist hesitated before activating it. He told himself this was for knowledge, for safety. The scanner turned on. The room bent. Walls stretched outward, then snapped back. The guards fell to their knees as if a heavy weight pressed down on them. Mira looked up from the floor where she had been sitting. She frowned, confused, and raised her hand slightly. The scanner shattered into dust. The pressure vanished. Everyone gasped for air. Mira stared at her hand, then at the empty space where the machine had been. Her eyes filled with tears, not from pain, but from fear. She whispered a single word: "Stop." The alarms that had started to scream went silent. The emergency lights froze halfway through their flashing cycle. Even the small floating dust in the air hung still for a breath longer than possible. Then time moved again. No one spoke. No one moved toward her. For the first time, the people watching her understood something they had avoided since her birth. Mira was not reacting to technology. Technology was reacting to her. After that day, the tests stopped. Instead, they watched. Far beyond the human station, beyond mapped space, something ancient shifted. It was not a creature with a single form. It was a presence spread across distance, awareness folded into itself. It had slept through the rise and fall of empires. It had ignored humanity as brief noise in a long silence, but now it felt a pull. A balance had moved. The presence reached outward, touching currents of light and dark that only beings like it could sense. Others awakened as well. Old watchers, silent rulers, minds that remembered when stars were young. None of them spoke, but all of them turned their attention in the same direction. A human child had been born between forces that were never meant to meet. Back on the station, Mira stood at the observation window of her room. Outside, stars drifted slowly, distant and calm. She pressed her hand against the glass. For a moment, the stars seemed closer, sharper, as if space itself leaned toward her. A guard named Domas watched from the hallway. He had been assigned to her since she was small. He spoke to her when the others were afraid to. He brought her simple toys and told her stories about Earth, a place he had never seen himself. "She is just a kid," he said once to a scientist who watched too closely. "Whatever else she is that too." Mira liked Tomas because he never looked at her like she was a problem to solve. When she smiled at him, the light stayed normal. When she laughed, nothing broke. That night, Mira dreamed. She stood in a place with no floor and no sky. Light flowed like water. Darkness moved like wind. Neither touched her, but both waited. She felt no fear, only a deep sense of being seen. When she spoke in the dream, her voice echoed far away. "What am I?" she asked. The light did not answer. The darkness did not answer. Instead, they moved closer, slowly, carefully, as if the answer depended on her. Mira woke with her heart racing. The walls of her room glowed faintly, then returned to normal. She sat up and hugged her knees, staring at her reflection in the glass. Somewhere deep in the station, a sealed file unlocked itself. Somewhere far beyond human space, ships that had not moved in centuries began to power up. And in a quiet room surrounded by stars, a small girl realized for the first time that the universe was waiting for her to decide something. She did not yet know what that choice would be, but she could feel its weight, heavy and patient, resting just beyond the edge of her understanding. Mira's 6th birthday passed quietly, though it had nothing to do with the day. The storm that had announced her birth seemed like a distant memory, yet its echo lingered in every corner of the station. Lights flickered occasionally as if remembering her presence. Shadows moved differently when she passed, and the crown appeared for the first time. No one expected it. A simple circlet, metal and unremarkable, had been stored in the archives. It was an artifact recovered from an old human colony on a planet that no longer existed. Scientists had called it a decorative relic. Yet when Mira touched it for the first time, It pulsed and stretched as if alive. The metal curved gently around her head and settled without any fastenings. It glowed faintly, half light and half dark, neither of which belonged to the station's power system. The room went silent. Guards froze. Scientists whispered urgently. Even Tomas, who had been around Mira longer than anyone, stepped back, unsure what to do. Mira tilted her head, feeling warmth and cold at the same time. The crown made no sound, but it moved. It shifted when she blinked, as if it listened. She reached out with both hands and lifted a small globe from the desk. The globe spun faster, not because of her strength, but because the crown seemed to command it. It hovered in the air, spinning like a tiny star. "Can you control it?" Tomas asked cautiously. Mira shook her head. "I don't know." It was true. She had not tried to control anything before. Things had happened around her, but she had never intentionally made anything move. Now she could feel a connection. Not to machines, not to walls, not to people. Something older, larger, and more alive. The elders of the station gathered in a council room. They spoke softly over encrypted channels, away from the children's eyes. They said the crown should not exist. They said the child should be hidden. And yet, they all feared what would happen if they took it from her. Meanwhile, Mira began having visions. They came at first as colors and shapes during her sleep. Bright reds, dark purples, twisting lights that made her feel as if she were flying through stars. Then came the visions with sound. A voice, deep and distant, calling her name. A warning or a greeting, she could not tell. She would wake up screaming sometimes, then remember nothing. Other times, she remembered everything, and her eyes would glow faintly. One evening, Tomas entered her room quietly. He often came at night bringing books or stories of distant Earth, which he described in words full of wonder. "Why do they call you the Chosen One?" Mira asked. Tomas froze. He had not expected her to ask that question so soon. "They believe that you were born to do something important," he said carefully. "Something no one else can do?" "Important how?" she asked. Her fingers touched the crown. It pulsed in response. A flicker of light shone across the room. "I don't know," Tomas admitted. "I just know that the universe will wait for your choice. That is what they are afraid of." Mira looked out the observation window. Stars stretched in every direction, calm and endless. She pressed her forehead to the glass and felt the crown against her hair. Something inside her responded, like a whisper she could not understand. It was not long before the aliens noticed her. They had been watching humanity quietly for centuries. Not openly, but with sensors and scouts hidden in dark space. The presence that had stirred when she was born now moved closer. Small ships, ancient and strange, slid into position along the borders of human space. They did not attack. They did not speak. They simply waited. The station leaders realized something that no one dared to say aloud. Mira was not just a child. She was a signal. The crown had awakened forces that had been silent for millennia. Some of those forces could destroy the station and every planet around it in a blink. Others could change the rules of life itself. Training began, though they did not call it training. It was observation, guided exercises to help her understand herself. Simple things at first. Moving objects, making light bend toward her hand, shaping shadows into soft forms. Every time she succeeded, the crown glowed brighter. Every time she failed, the crown pulsed, almost like a heartbeat, waiting. By the age of 8, she could control small energy currents, bending them into shapes that looked alive, A ball of light could spin around her like a pet. Shadows could coil and shift around her without harming anyone. Still, she never used these powers for anything beyond play. She watched the effect on others. She listened to the reactions. Then came the first warning. A ship appeared beyond the station, small at first, then massive as it approached. It did not display markings familiar to humans. It hovered silently. Sensors failed to identify it. The elders panicked. Some wanted to destroy it before it could reveal itself. Others wanted to hide Mira. Mira, unaware of the tension, approached the observation window. She could feel the ship before she saw it, not with her eyes, but with a pull inside her chest. Something in her told her it was not here to attack yet. Something else told her that it was waiting for her. The crown reacted. It glowed stronger, shifting between light and dark in a steady rhythm. Mira reached out. A light from the crown stretched outward like a ribbon. To a moment, the alien ship trembled, as if it recognized her. The station erupted into noise, but Mira only whispered one word: "Peace!" The ship hesitated. It moved back slightly, holding position. Sensors could not explain it. Communications channels remained silent. No one spoke. Mira watched as the crown responded to her intent. It did not obey her consciously. It obeyed her will, which was still unformed, still a child's understanding of the universe. From that day, the station's approach changed. Mira was no longer just protected. She was observed with care, guarded by soldiers trained to follow her instincts, scientists who studied the crown without touching it, and Tomas, who became her closest friend and confidant. Other children in the station avoided her. Fear has a way of spreading even without words. Adults whispered stories. Some called her a miracle. Others called her dangerous. The crown's power was not fully understood, and rumors spread like wildfire. Mira did not care. She only knew the universe was larger than she imagined. When she touched the crown, she could feel the pull of forces that humans could barely comprehend. The light, the dark, the stars, the spaces between them, they all seemed alive, waiting, listening. One night, Mira dreamed again. She was standing on a cliff, made of light, looking down into a sea of darkness. Stars drifted like glowing fish. A figure appeared beside her, tall and faceless, its body made of both brightness and shadow. It extended a hand. "You are the bridge," it said. Its voice was not sound, but understanding. "The bridge?" Mira asked. "Between what is and what should be," the figure answered. "You must choose when the time comes. Every side will call for you. Every side will demand your allegiance. But the crown does not obey them. It obeys you." Mira woke with a start. Her room was quiet. The crown sat lightly on her head. She could feel its pulse in rhythm with her own heartbeat. The warning in her dream was clear. A choice would come. A choice she might not understand. Outside, the stars seemed closer than before. Far away, the alien fleet held its position. Inside, the station waited. The child, the crown, the universe, they were connected in ways that no one could explain. And for the first time, Mira understood that she was no longer just a girl. She was a signal, a bridge, and perhaps a key. She was the chosen one, and the universe already knew it. While wine does, the first battle began without warning. Mira had been practicing in the observation room when the alarms screamed through the station. Sensors showed multiple alien ships approaching at high speed. They were unlike anything the humans had faced before. Shapes shifted constantly, colors that had no name, forms that seemed impossible. No weapon signature, no pattern of movement, yet everyone knew this was an attack. The station scrambled. Soldiers ran to stations, engines roared, and shields came online with sparks of energy arcing through the corridors. Tomas grabbed Mira's hand. "You must stay calm," he said. "Nothing will reach you if you focus." Mira nodded, her small hands clutching the crown lightly. The circlet pulsed as if sensing the danger. The energy from it spread through her body, not painfully, but like electricity flowing through water. She did not fully understand what she could do. She had never been in real danger, never seen life and death balanced in the same moment. A huge alien ship appeared outside the observation window. It moved like liquid metal, bending space around it. Its surface glowed faintly, reacting to the crown in her head. Mira could feel it. She did not have to see the ship to know its intent. It was here to take her. It had come for the crown, and the crown belonged only to her. Tomas pulled her to the center of the room. "Focus on nothing but yourself," he whispered. "Do not think of the ship. Do not think of them. Think of you." Mira closed her eyes. She imagined light as a net around her, shadow as a shield beneath her. The crown pulsed faster. The observation window blurred as the alien ship tried to move closer. Then, slowly, the ship stopped. Its approach halted as if an invisible barrier pressed against it. The station shook. Lights flickered. Soldiers froze in place, unsure what was happening. Then, one of the control screens lit up. A small drone had approached the ship and vanished into it. It reported back data that could not be understood. Every language known to humans failed to interpret what was happening. Mira opened her eyes. The crown glowed fully, half in light, half in darkness. She lifted her hands. Energy extended from her fingertips like ribbons of color. The ribbons reached the alien ship and wrapped around it. The metal flowed, not melting but reshaping itself in midair. The ship shivered as if it were alive, unsure how to respond to her. The soldiers watching could not believe it. Weapons aimed at the ship did nothing. Missiles fired from the hangar simply floated and disappeared. Mira's presence alone held the ship in place. The crown was not just jewelry. It was a command. She did not understand the command fully, but the alien vessel obeyed her. Then, one of the other ships attacked from behind. Mira saw it with her mind before her eyes could register. A dark ribbon of energy extended from her crown. It twisted through the hallways of space between the two ships. The second ship shuddered, then spun away, retreating. Mira had not touched it, not aimed at it, not thought of destroying it. It simply could not approach. The battle continued for hours. The humans tried to move, to fire, to react. Mira did not notice the time. She floated in her mind above the conflict, watching how the crown interacted with reality. Every decision she did not make was still acted upon. Light and shadow obeyed her instincts, even when she did not understand them. Finally, after what felt like eternity, the alien fleet pulled back. No human ship had fired a single effective shot. Bach. The station remained intact, and the aliens had retreated, not destroyed, not weakened, simply gone. Exhausted, Mira sank to the floor. The crown returned to a faint pulse. Tomas knelt beside her, holding her hands. "They won't forget you," he said softly. "Neither the aliens nor anyone who sees what you can do." Mira nodded silently. She was tired, but aware that this was only the beginning. The battle had shown her something important. Her power was immense, but it was not complete. She could command things she did not understand. She could bend matter, energy, and perhaps even life itself. But the crown did not teach her. It listened. It waited. In the days after the battle, the station recovered. The council debated what to do next. Some wanted to move Mira to a hidden station far from human space. Others wanted to train her more, to prepare her to meet the alien fleets again. Tomas argued for patience. She was a child, not a weapon. They should guide her, not force her. Mira began to explore more of her abilities. She found she could manipulate not only objects but also the environment around her. Cold rooms became warm. Lights adjusted themselves. Broken machines repaired, sometimes before she even realized they were broken. Shadows could move in response to her mood, providing cover or guiding others. It was not magic. It was something older than that, something connected to the universe itself. Her dreams became more vivid. She saw galaxies being formed and destroyed, watched civilizations rise and fall, and heard voices that spoke without sound. Some were warnings. Some were invitations. All were focused on her. One night, Tomas found her standing by the observation window, staring at a distant star that flickered strangely. "Do you see them?" she asked softly. Tomas looked, but saw only a small, distant sun. "I see nothing," he admitted. Mira pressed her hand to the glass. "They are waiting," she whispered. "And they are coming back." The crown pulsed stronger at her touch. It was not only a piece of metal. It was alive. It was a bridge. Every decision she did not make, every instinct she followed, was felt by distant forces. The aliens she had seen were only the first to notice. Others had always existed in the shadows of space, watching humanity, waiting for the right moment. Mira understood, perhaps for the first time, that she was more than human. She was a signal, a presence that could not be ignored, a child who could decide the outcome of battles before anyone knew they had begun. Tomas sat behind her, worried and protective. He knew this was not just about the aliens or the station. It was about the entire universe. Mira's presence had changed everything. The crown had awakened forces that were patient and powerful, forces that would test her, challenge her, and demand choices she might not understand. But the stars outside remained distant and calm. But Mira knew they were no longer silent. She was part of something larger, something waiting. And she would have to face it, one way or another. Mira trained every day, though she did not always realize it. The crown guided her, but it never gave answers. It responded to her emotions, her choices, her fears. Light could burn, darkness could protect. The two forces existed within her and around her, neither truly controllable, yet both obedient when she understood their nature. The station's council had become more protective. Guards increased, access to her restricted, visitors carefully vetted. Even Tomas had to explain every absence to them. Yet none of the precautions mattered when she walked through the halls. Shadows seemed to bend to her steps, light shifted around her without flicker, and whispers of awe followed her in every corridor. One afternoon, a new trainer arrived. Her name was Alina. She was not a soldier, but someone who had spent her life understanding energy fields and ancient artifacts. She had worked with objects older than human colonies. When she first saw Mira, she did not flinch, did not question, only observed.
"Your crown," Alina said quietly, "is not a crown."
"It is a key." Mira tilted her head. "A key to what?" Alina smiled faintly. "To choices, to balance, Light and dark exist in everything. The crown channels what is in you. It does not give you power.
It reflects it. Myra tried to understand.
Sometimes light burned when she was angry. Shadows protected when she was calm. Sometimes they reversed. Nothing was simple. Alina guided her through exercises where she had to bend both at the same time. It was exhausting. Mira learned quickly, but not without mistakes. A small misstep could shatter equipment or make walls sweat condensation, as if the station itself responded to imbalance. One night, while Mira slept, a betrayal occurred. One of the council members, fearing her power, attempted to locate her private quarters to move her to a hidden station. The betrayal was quiet. He believed secrecy was safety. But the crown reacted. Mira did not wake, but the lights in her room pulsed, sending a signal that alerted Tomas. Tomas arrived to find the council member outside her door, panicked and frozen. He did not understand exactly what had stopped the man, but he knew it had not been Mira consciously. The crown protected her, darkness shielding her without thought, without action, yet perfectly. The council was informed. Punishment was debated but never carried out. Fear had already shifted. Everyone knew that Mira was no longer a child who could be guided by rules alone. She was something older than human law, older than station protocol. They could only watch, react, and hope. Mira awoke in the early hours, her eyes glowing faintly. She felt the crown's pulse against her head, like a heartbeat she did not own. Shadows moved gently along the walls, guiding her to the observation window. Beyond, the stars were bright, cold, and endless. Far away, alien forces stirred. They had observed the previous battle and noted her actions. They understood the crown as a signal, a presence that could not be ignored. Ships began to move quietly through dark space, preparing for the moment they would confront her again. Mira could feel their approach, though not consciously. It was instinct, a resonance between her and the universe. She pressed her hand against the glass, and the crown pulsed in response. Light stretched toward the distant points where ships hid. Darkness curled around the station, protective and watchful. The next weeks became a test. Mira's training increased, now including strategy, awareness, and careful decision-making. Alina showed her simulations of cosmic events, teaching her how to manipulate light and shadow together. It was more than bending matter. It was bending probability, the flow of energy, the potential of life. One day, Alina asked, "Do you understand why they fear you?" Mira shook her head. "Because they think I can hurt them?" Alina considered her. They fear what they cannot control. They fear what they cannot predict. You are neither weapon nor servant. You are a force that chooses. That is why they watch. That is why they wait. Mira felt the weight of her presence more than ever. She could feel the universe pressing in. Far-off stars, alien fleets, human stations, they all responded to her existence. A mistake could bring devastation. A choice could reshape life. The first test of this understanding came unexpectedly. Alarms flared. A ship had infiltrated the perimeter, moving too fast to be identified. Human weapons were useless. Mira, feeling the threat in her chest, stepped toward the observation window. The crown pulsed. Light and shadow stretched from her hands, creating a barrier around the station. The intruder approached, then slowed. It did not attack. It hesitated, unsure. Mira's instinct guided the energy. She did not think, she felt. Light flared where she wanted it to illuminate. Darkness coiled to block the ship's movement. For the first time, she directed both together, not as separate forces, but as one flow. The ship retreated, not destroyed, not wounded. Just moved back. Mira exhaled slowly, her body trembling from effort. Tomas came to her side. "You did it," he said softly. Mira looked at the crown. "I did not do anything," she whispered. "That is the point," Thomas replied. "You are learning to let it act with you, not through you." Days later, another warning arrived. This time, messages came through encrypted channels from human colonies far beyond their system. Reports of strange sightings, of fleets appearing and vanishing, of entire planets' energy fields fluctuating without cause. All signs pointed to her presence. She was not just observed locally. The universe itself noticed. Mira felt a growing sense of responsibility. She could no longer play or practice alone. Every choice mattered. Every action reached further than she could see. Light could heal or harm. Darkness could shield or consume. Balance was not peace. Balance was decision, repeated and repeated, until the consequences unfolded.
Her dreams also changed.
In the void between sleep and wakefulness, she saw civilizations rise, then pause, waiting for her choice. She heard the whispers of ancient beings, some calling for caution, some for action. None demanded obedience. All expected understanding. The crown responded, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat, teaching through resonance, not words. One evening, as she stood watching a distant nebula, Alina approached quietly. "You are ready to understand the next step," she said. "Not control, not power, but the meaning of choice. The crown listens to intent. It obeys the alignment of your will and your heart. That is the only way it can act effectively." Mira nodded, unsure what that meant, but willing to learn. She pressed her hand against the crown. Light and darkness stretched outward, touching the walls, the ceiling, the floor. The station responded as one organism. Machines hummed. Shadows shifted. Ah, that. The air felt alive, far beyond human space. Alien fleets moved again. They did not attack yet. They waited, patient and precise. They understood that she was growing, learning, and the moment she would act was approaching. The station itself became a training ground, not just for Mira, but for the entire human crew. They watched, learned, and adapted. Humans were no longer merely inhabitants. They were participants in a universe that now acknowledged them through her. Fear remained, but awe replaced some of it. Respect began to take root where panic had ruled. Mira understood in a way only she could that she had entered a stage where action was inevitable. The crown did not command. It reflected. Every choice she made, every instinct she followed, was felt across space, rippling like a stone dropped into a dark, endless ocean. The consequences were vast, but she could not see them yet. In her quiet moments, she pressed her forehead to the observation window and stared into the stars. They no longer seemed distant. They waited. They watched. And she realized that one day soon, she would have to meet them. Not with weapons, not with fleets, but with the crown, the light, the darkness, and her own choices. The universe had already begun to test her, and she could feel it. Every heartbeat, every pulse of the crown, every ripple of energy around her whispered the same warning: the time to decide would come, and when it did, nothing could remain unchanged. The council had prepared for every eventuality. yet nothing they planned could match what came next. Mira stood at the observation window, her crown pulsing with a steady rhythm, as reports came in from multiple sectors. Alien fleets were moving again, and this time their approach was coordinated. Not random patrols, not probes, but full fleets, ancient vessels whose names had been lost to human history. The station was ready for evacuation. Humans had armed ships, weapons, and defensive protocols. Yet Tomas knew that force alone would not succeed. Mira understood it as well, even without thinking. The crown responded to her awareness, stretching light and shadow outward. The station's energy shield, already strengthened by previous training, pulsed as if alive, bending reality itself to respond to her. Alina came to her side. "They have come for you," she said simply. "Not to negotiate, not to fight, at least not in the way you expect. They want the crown. They want the child who wears it." Mira turned her eyes from the approaching ships to Alina. "Why me? What do they see in me?" "They see balance. They see a bridge. They see someone who can decide the outcome of everything. If you yield, the universe changes. If you refuse, it changes differently. They want to influence that choice." Tomas took her hand. "We fight not with weapons, but with you," he said. "You are the station. You are the shield. You are the shield. We follow your lead." The first alien vessel broke the edge of the system's detection. It glided in silence, its form bending like liquid, its presence heavy and oppressive. Mira's crown pulsed faster. Light flared, shadows coiled. She did not move her hands consciously, yet energy extended from her, forming barriers, weaving around the ship, pressing against it without touch. The alien vessel hesitated, then moved forward again, testing the energy around the station. Other ships followed, coordinating without words, an unspoken understanding among them. The humans fired, but their weapons had little effect. Mira's crown did not need their help to shield the station, but the soldiers' presence strengthened her awareness, a shared focus that extended her instincts. Hours passed. No one slept. Mira learned to focus not only on defense, but on observation. She saw the alien fleet not as enemies, but as a puzzle. Each ship reacted to her crown, to her presence, to the balance she maintained. They were intelligent, patient, and waiting for a signal that she might give. Then the signal came, not from her conscious mind, but from instinct. One ship, larger than the rest, approached closer than the others. Mira felt a pull, a resonance, and the crown glowed with both light and dark, steady and unwavering. The shadows formed a spiral around the ship, not to destroy, but to contain, to hold. The light stretched outward, illuminating the vessel in a way that revealed its structure, its weakness, not for attack, but for understanding. The alien ship recoiled slightly, then held its position. Mira understood. She could communicate without words. Intent was enough. She directed her focus at the fleet, and slowly, as if learning from her, the ships adjusted their positions. The confrontation became a negotiation of presence, of awareness rather than weapons and destruction. Tomas watched her silently. She was not a weapon, not a soldier, not a ruler. She was a force of awareness that reshaped the battlefield simply by existing. The crown did not fight. It did not command. It reflected her will, her instinct, her sense of balance. And she was learning quickly. The council watched in awe and fear. They had expected missiles, lasers, and explosions. Instead, they witnessed energy bending reality, ships stopping, retreating, aligning, without violence, Mira had become a mediator of cosmic forces, a bridge between life and power, light and shadow, fear and hope. After the fleets withdrew, the station breathed. Repairs began. Energy flowed differently now. The crown had expanded, interacting with the station, the humans, even the surrounding space. Mira could feel the extent of her influence, a faint but undeniable resonance that reached beyond the system. Alina approached her, eyes filled with respect. "You have done more than survive," she said. "You have reshaped the battlefield with understanding. No human, no weapon, no fleet could have done what you did."
Mira looked at her hands.
"I did not do anything," she said quietly. "I only felt. That is what makes you the chosen one." But even as she spoke, Mira knew the universe was far from quiet. Other presences had awakened. They had felt the crown's power, the child's instinct. They would come, patient, precise, testing, observing. And when the time came, she would have to decide not only how to act, but who to be. The next days were quiet in the station, but tense. Every sound, every light, every shadow reminded humans of the unseen fleets that still lingered in distant space. Mira continued her training, guided by Alina, protected by Tomas, and watched by all. She explored the limits of her crown, bending light into soft structures, shaping shadows into protective forms, learning that intention was as important as action. Her dreams changed. She saw herself in the center of a vast field of stars. Light and darkness stretched endlessly, forming rivers of energy, paths of potential, streams of possibility. The whispers of ancient beings grew louder, more insistent. They offered knowledge, warnings, glimpses of what might come. Some spoke of fear, some of hope. All expected understanding. One night, Thomas entered quietly. Mira was awake, staring at the stars. "Are you ready?" he asked. "For what?" she replied. "For them," he said. "The moment when the universe demands choice." Mira's eyes glowed faintly. The crown pulsed with her heartbeat. "I don't know if I will ever be ready," she said. "You will," Thomas replied, "because you do not have to be perfect."
You only have to be you. She nodded slowly.
Somewhere far away, alien fleets observed, waiting. Somewhere, hidden observers of the universe held their silence, watching. Mira's choice had not yet come, but the preparation, the trials, the understanding were all moving toward a moment that could not be delayed. In her quiet moments, Mira realized something crucial. The crown did not give power, and she did not wield it fully. She was a mediator, a bridge, a signal of awareness. Everything she did, every instinct she followed, every decision she made resonated across space, shaping outcomes she could not yet see. The universe had noticed her, and when the time came, it would expect her to act. The universe held its breath. Mira stood at the observation window, the crown on her head glowing softly in a rhythm that matched her heartbeat. She was no longer a child merely observed or protected. She had grown, learned, and understood the crown in ways the humans and the ancient alien fleets could only sense but not define. Every movement of her hands, every thought in her mind, resonated across space. Alien fleets approached again, silent, patient, more numerous than before. They had watched her training, the previous encounters, and knew her instincts were powerful. But they did not know the depth of her understanding. The crown was not just a shield or a weapon. It was a bridge, and she was learning to cross it. Tomas stood behind her, calm and reassuring. Alina remained at her side, guiding without speaking, providing knowledge when needed, yet knowing this moment required Mira's instinct more than instruction. The first ships arrived near the station, stopping at a distance, as if testing. Mira extended her hands, but she did not aim. She allowed light and darkness to flow from her crown, not as separate forces, but as one presence. Energy wove through space, forming a field that the alien vessels could not violate nor ignore. It was not aggression. It was communication. The largest alien vessel moved forward, almost a challenge, and Mira responded with a pulse of balance. The ship shivered, its energy flowing differently, bending toward her light and darkness, not in submission, but in acknowledgement. The crown expanded its influence subtly, touching not only space, but the consciousness of the beings inside the fleets. The humans watched, awed and tense. Every pilot, every soldier, every technician understood that this was not merely defense. This was a negotiation of presence, a shaping of reality itself by a child who had grown into her power. The crown pulsed in response to her focus, her instinct, her calm awareness. It did not force action. It reflected her being. Hours passed as the fleets held position. Mira's crown glowed in waves, rising and falling with her heartbeat. She sensed their questions, their caution, their calculations. She realized she did not need to strike, to command, or to destroy. Presence alone could alter the outcome. Balance could protect without harm. Then a voice reached her mind, not through words, but understanding. It was the ancient presence that had first awakened at her birth, and others joined silently. They spoke as one, offering insight, not command, into the choices that awaited. Each choice would ripple through galaxies, affecting life and death, creation and destruction, light and shadow. The crown listened, waiting, ready to extend her will when she chose. Mira exhaled slowly. She felt the weight of what she had become. Not ruler, not weapon, not guardian, alone. A bridge, a signal, a presence that could shape events through intent. She realized for the first time that the universe did not demand control. It demanded understanding and balance. She spoke, softly, though no one heard her voice. The crown pulsed stronger, a resonance that stretched outward, touching the alien fleets, the station, the humans around her. Intent flowed without thought, communication without words. The ships paused, then shifted, moving away from the station slowly, cautiously. They were not defeated, they were acknowledged. For the first time, the humans could breathe. The fleets retreated, not destroyed, not weakened. They left the station intact, leaving a message not of fear, but of recognition. The child with the crown was no ordinary being, and every presence in space had noticed. Mira lowered her hands, feeling exhaustion and relief together. Thomas stepped forward.
"It is done," he said softly. Mira shook her head.
"It is not done," she said. "It is only beginning. They know I exist. The universe knows. I must understand what that means, not just act." Alina smiled faintly. "That is why you are the chosen one. Power without understanding is dangerous. You have learned balance." Days passed quietly, though the tension remained. The humans repaired the station and celebrated survival quietly, aware that this was not a victory in the usual sense. Mira continued her practice, stretching the limits of her crown, bending light and shadow in increasingly complex ways. She no longer needed to think to control energy. Her instincts guided her. The crown amplified understanding, not command. Dreams returned, but differently. Mira stood in fields of stars, rivers of light and shadow stretching endlessly. The ancient presences spoke, offering guidance, showing possibilities, warning of consequences. Mira listened and learned. She felt the weight of future choices, and yet she was not afraid. She understood that understanding, not action alone, was the greatest force she possessed. Weeks later, Mira stepped to the observation window again, her eyes reflecting distant galaxies. Alien fleets had withdrawn, but not forgotten. Ancient watchers lingered in silence, curious, patient. Humans moved around her, aware of her importance, yet respecting the balance she maintained. Tomas stood nearby, never pushing, always present, offering reassurance. Mira placed her hand on the crown. Light and shadow coiled gently around her fingers. The crown no longer glowed aggressively. It listened, attuned to her heartbeat and will. She felt a calm she had not known before. She understood that she did not have to dominate. She did not have to conquer. She only had to exist as herself, maintaining balance, reflecting choice, shaping presence. Far away, in the reaches of dark space, alien fleets adjusted their course. They were no longer aggressors, only observers. The universe had learned a human name. The crown had spoken without words. The child had acted without violence. Every presence, human and alien, ancient and young, understood that the balance had shifted. Humanity was no longer underestimated. Mira turned from the window, her small hands folded. She did not smile. She did not boast. She only felt the weight of being the bridge, the presence that could shape consequences before they unfolded. The station was quiet, but alive. Machines hummed gently. Shadows moved softly. Light danced across walls, reflecting her calm. Tomas approached again. "Do you feel it?" he asked.
Yes, Mira said.
"I am not just me. I am everything I touch, everything I observe, everything I choose." Alina nodded. "That is the true meaning of the crown. It does not give you power. It makes you aware of what is already yours. You have learned, child, to act without destroying, to command without forcing, to exist without fear." Mira felt the universe around her, not as a threat, not as a challenge, but as a series of possibilities. Every star, every fleet, every human, every shadow, every light pulse, all connected in a web of awareness that she now partially understood. She could not predict the future, but she could shape it through presence and choice. And in the calm of the observation room, Mira understood her role. She did not rule. She did not conquer. She watched, she learned, she acted when necessary, and she chose balance. The crown rested lightly on her head, a constant reminder, not of power, but of responsibility. Far beyond the station, the stars drifted slowly, the fleets lingered in silence, and the universe waited, knowing that when the child acted again, the consequences would ripple across galaxies. Mira, the chosen one, the crowned daughter of light and dark, had become a signal that the universe would remember forever. She looked out at the endless stars, calm and patient, and knew one day she would act again. But for now, she simply existed, the crown listening, the universe acknowledging, and humanity finally understood that they were no longer alone in the cosmos.